Good afternoon, everyone. Today I have Papa Doc, and we are back again. Hey, Papa Doc, how are you?
Hi. How you doing?
I'm good. So today we're gonna talk about the gateway to prosperity, and our theme here today is saying that today is going to be better than the last. So every single day is better than the last, and we got to talking about this last week when we were ending our broadcast, and we just were talking about how if you just start with what you can do, then it can build up, because a lot of times what happens is that we put too much on our plate. The New Year's is coming up, right? And what do? We always come up with these New Year's resolutions, and in our New Year's resolutions, we decide we're going to exercise, we're going to diet, we're going to start working on our mindset, we're going to read 3 books a month, or we're going to join some sort of group to make us better. We're going to do all these things. We have this whole big list. And then somewhere in the middle of the month or towards the end of the month, we end up failing. And so that's what we're going to kind of talk about today, is about how to get into that prosperity mindset without failing, right?
Hmm.
And so as we were talking about how every day is better than the last, right? So for me, I'm gonna kind of talk about what that means for me is actually setting up our day with what we can do. So if you're in a mindset that's negative, okay, and you are struggling because each person that you live with is extremely negative. So I know a lot of people like that out there. Their
Hmm.
husband's
Hmm.
negative, their kids
Hmm.
are
Hmm.
complaining, their life is like this, their job is like this. And so what we want to do is we want to just say, what can I do today? What can I do today?
Hmm.
And that's all you do. You just focus on today, making today better than yesterday.
Hmm.
So I'm going to ask you, if I was to say that you were going to make today better than yesterday, what would you do different today?
Well, the first thing I would do is as you said, is change your mindset, because mentally, if you're not ready for prosperity, for success, then you're going to fail, because a little bit like we said before, that the world is very negative. So the way that you change your universe is that you have to change inside of yourself.
Okay,
Um,
okay, but now let me hold. I'm gonna hold on. I'm
okay,
gonna jump in here because I work with a lot of people who have negative mindsets. Okay,
okay,
and it doesn't happen overnight.
absolutely, you're right,
So if let's say hypothetically that you were very negative,
right.
have you ever been in a space in your life when you were really negative?
Yes.
Okay,
I think all of us have at some point.
yeah, okay, me too, right?
Right.
And so you can try really hard, but trying doesn't get you very far, right? So,
Well.
like what you have to do is you have to, like I said, like we talked about, is making today better than yesterday. So
Mhm.
let's say, remember when you were negative,
Okay.
okay? Just sit in that space for a second. What could you do today that was better than yesterday? Like one little thing, one
Well.
little thing.
Well. Before I answer that, you got
Okay.
to fundamentally.
Uh-huh.
What happens is that when you're in that particular space, you feel so down, you feel so low that you don't want to listen to what anyone else has to say at that particular point.
Mhm.
And so it's a process, maybe even a long suffering process, to get a person to the point where they can actually hear you. Now, once they can able to hear you, you have to do little things to be able now. And what I usually do as a metaphysical pastor is, even with the Bible in that aspect, is to show them how the Bible properly works, so that they can begin to understand that, okay, maybe I'll try you one more. Now I'll try it one more time with you, because you're telling me some things here that I have never heard before. So now, because a lot of times you can go to all these different success seminars, all that kind of stuff, but most people have began from from a experience of a religious experience. Somewhere
Mhm.
they've been to church. So then you realize the fact, yeah, well, you went to church and you heard this, but you was misinformed. The interpretations that you were given were wrong. So what we would try to do is we would try to empower them within that belief system. So and then one of the things that I do in my work is I actually begin to give the person that self-esteem. Because ultimately,
So hold on. I'm going to stop you right there just for a
okay,
second, okay? Because I think what you're saying is that you're offering up to the table possibility.
mm-hmm,
If you can get them into the mindset space that they could believe that it's possible,
mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
Then at that point, that's when they're willing to try because they don't believe you, because they've lived this life of, like, this is how I am, I'm crazy, there's something wrong with me, I can't, I've tried to control my mind, I've tried meditation, I've tried it all, and they can't get there. So they have to believe in the possibility. So if you can just convince that, so that would be step one, right?
and that's why I said it's foundational.
Mm-hmm.
If you can begin to give a person a foundation, well, we would know about this, and this is why the magical system is so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, the initiation that happened is the initiation of empowerment of possibilities. So now because what you realize is that, yeah, you've been creating, but you've been creating in the negative. So that when you become initiated, you understand the rules of the universe, and now you can start beginning to create within the positive. So ultimately, and a lot of times when people think, oh my, why is it that my life is so messed up and everything? Sometimes that's a good thing, because you realize that every person who walked the spiritual path had to have that particular bumper in the road where they were changed from their particular path, and then they went on to the higher path. To use once again, like if you look at any superhero, there's always something that always happened in their life that was traumatic, and because of that traumatic experience, they actually go and they actually reach out for that higher self, for that what we would call the higher genius. So ultimately, there has to be something within that person. There has to be some shift. So you try to get that person to shift. Sometimes it may not happen when they're there with you. Sometimes it might take years before they get it. Then they finally, because it works within the subconscious mind. So
Mm-hmm.
so eventually they're probably, after experiencing some other negative stuff, perhaps they're going to say, "Oh, now I get it." The lights come on. They say, "Okay, I got to stop this. I got to be able to change myself. I got to be." And now, is it easy? No, it's not easy. Because if you've been walking your life for 15 years or even 5 years in a certain pattern, it's hard to break the pattern. So that's why. Hmm?
Right.
So
No, it's
that's so that's the reason why on the first level you must be able to first be able to know the possibility. That's why you must connect your the foundation has to be from Genesis, because most people know Genesis when God created the world, and if you understand that properly, what happened in terms of a state of initiation, that person, you can shake that person usually, and they can say, "Oh wow, I never heard that before."
okay, but hold on.
Okay,
You're talking a lot about the initiate. Okay. A
okay,
lot of people, first off, don't know what an initiate is.
right,
And second off, they may not want to be initiated. And this process that we're talking about can work without being initiated.
absolutely.
There's
When I say initiation, I mean in the broader sense of initiation, not like going into a particular order or whatever to be initiated. What I mean when I say initiated, I mean the consciousness awakening inside yourself that God or God is principle. So on the general sense of initiation, understanding yourself to be a person, a co-creator with God in the universe.
Yeah, but see, that's a really hard space. I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
I
Okay.
know you will.
I have been working with people for 18 years.
I know.
Like, literally, the only thing that I can convince them of is that they have to trust me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, look, because they always say that they don't trust themselves. And so I always say to them, you don't have to trust yourself. You just have to trust me. I've been doing this for 18 years. I know what I'm doing, and I know how to get you there. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not a race.
Mm-hmm.
it's a walk, it's a path. You're walking towards something.
Absolutely.
And that's why we're talking about every day has to be better than the last, because we're not trying to run to a goal very quickly. What we're trying to do, because we'll wear out, we'll tire out, we'll
Absolutely.
fail, and we won't get there. What we're trying to do is open up that space of possibility. It's
Absolutely.
possible that I can get there, but and they if you can recognize that possibility exists, and
Absolutely.
that, you know, most of the time in general, most people have to have a guide. You
Absolutely.
know, they have to have somebody who can guide them through that process. Your process of guiding somebody is a little bit different than mine.
Right.
And
Well,
you
it,
know, and
it may be a little different, like you said, the price, but you'll be surprised how remarkably similar they are.
oh yeah,
You know, yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. But it doesn't really matter. I'm just talking in general. Maybe it's
Absolutely.
you, maybe it's me, maybe it's
Right.
Pluto, maybe it's Karen, maybe it's
Absolutely.
um, Mercurio, or
Okay.
you know, whoever. It could be anybody. It could be Joe Blow down the street that has
Absolutely.
you know, a building over here that says, you know, mindset coach or whatever. It doesn't really matter. The fact is that most people can't do it by themselves.
Absolutely.
Okay, I wasn't able to do it by myself. And I've always had somebody greater than me in my life that has guided me, even at the level that I'm at, which is at a much higher level. I have guides above me that, and I mean physical guides, not like
Yeah,
spiritual guides. I mean,
absolutely.
I do have that too, but I have mentors that are stepping me through this process so I can continue to elevate. So I always have somebody above me, and I wouldn't be able to do that by myself.
I have mentors. Now
Hmm.
I still have. I had godmothers. I had godmothers. I had godfathers, and ultimately this. See, and this I want to say this.
Hmm.
Um, in America, it's very difficult for people to actually get to the magical path. And I'm gonna say this because in America, it's always have it your way. The McDonald's religion, where you can do it your way you want to do it. And a lot of times, when you're in darkness, you're going to see what's in darkness. And to walk a different path is scary for a lot of people. So that's like you said again, and I go back to my movie again. In terms the Matrix.
Hmm.
Neo had to trust Morpheus to a certain level, because if he did not trust Morpheus, he would never gotten to where he had to get to. So
Hmm.
now the question becomes, you got to make sure you get the right mentor and things of that nature, because there's a lot of people out there who are a lot of charlatans out there. So, but you have
Right.
to.
Very,
So,
that's very true. And
absolutely,
that's the biggest problem that's out there right now. And
absolutely,
this is the whole
absolutely.
reason all of us have gathered together doing We Rise Together. It's because what we're trying to do is bring the masters, the real masters, whatever tradition or whatever, the people that know their shit and are not charlatans. These are people of all different kinds of, you know, variations that are coming together saying, here's a pathway forward and I can help you, right? And
Absolutely.
and that's like, it's there's so many out there. I mean, I was talking to Pluto the other day, and she met this woman who has this website full of all these different people, and she was like, she's kind of put something together that we were talking about doing.
Hmm. Hmm.
And she sent me the link, and I looked at it and I said, this is these people are like your very basic level of understanding. And she's like, yeah, it feels like a lot of fluff. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, this is not this is not the level that people need. I mean, they've been trying that for a long
Well,
time. Right? I mean, they've
unfortunately,
been following all the different, you know, people that have given them this like fluff. It's like they're not giving them the meat and potatoes on how to do this.
unfortunately, and I say this, social media is basically a social club of who likes who best. That's
Mhm.
really what it is. But just because you have so many followers, don't necessarily mean that you're an expert in your field. And because of that, a lot of times these people only know two things ahead of what they're telling other people. A lot of time, and I'm not saying that you cannot get self-initiated. I'm not saying that there is an authority in books, but a lot of times people fail to get is this. And I say this all the time: You got people who have been initiated at different levels, in the higher levels. They're adepts. If they have been initiated, do you think they're gonna put all those secrets in a 1995 book? Where they went through all kinds of secret oaths, obligations, whatever like that. You think they're gonna give it to you in a 1995 book? So now you have people who are going to these books, they're putting this out on social media, and not to even mention that a lot of times there are blinds in those particular books so that you won't get the truth. So, and I get this in my field all the time. You have people who have gone out there and they've practiced using books. They get hung up because they don't know what's going on. And then they had to come to me in order to be able to straighten it out as a spiritual doctor. And
Right, right. And I have to tell you something based on what you just said about getting hung up on books. I actually have a friend who was misinformed. I mean, really misinformed. And I started telling him, how it really was. And he said, "Where did you learn that? How do you know that? How is it, what book did you get that out of?" And he started quoting somebody else and something that somebody else said. And I said, why should I believe somebody who wrote a book, you know, when my personal higher self, my personal guides have come to me and they've given me specific instructions.
and like
And
and what you said again, your hired guides came to you, but you had to be mentors. See, this is a very important thing. Wilma Rudolph was a pretty fast woman, but even Wilma Rudolph needed a coach to make her the fastest woman in the world.
mhm,
See, and somehow with the magical system, people think that, oh, well, if I have a gift and I get a mentor, I might muddy up my gift. No, it'll make you better ultimately because, even Jesus, if we look at it, Jesus, he was in the synagogues, whatever, he had teachers. So, and a lot of times what happened, and like I said again, in America, the whole thing is that people think that magic is certain things that you can be, well, anybody can do it because it's very simple, whatever. No, it's a science to this the same way there's a science to everything else. If there's a science to medical healing, what make you think there's not a science to spiritual healing? And we talked about this before. Before there was chemistry, there was alchemy.
mhm.
So a lot of times we went kind of in reverse because now we're dealing with the medical science. We're going from below, so above.
Mhm.
So now it's like, well, what we see here must be the actual facts. Then we go upside. No, it should be the other way. That's why the axiom is very, very powerful. Very simple axiom, but very powerful. Because the first time when you initiate yourself, when you get that truth, you realize that it's from above that you get the order to come down below, and then from within yourself, you get what you need in order to be able to be without yourself. Because
Yeah.
because before, when you're first born, everyone knows it in reverse. You don't know anything about yourself except for what your parents tell you or whatever, or what the world tells you are.
Yeah, but that's so complicated. Okay.
Absolutely.
And what if I was the person that I was many, many, many years ago when you said
Hmm.
all that to me, it would
Hmm.
be like
Hmm.
I would drift off
Hmm.
into
And
the point the
I'm
point
sorry. Go
behind
ahead.
no, that's okay. It's okay. Kind of like I said, I'm being devil's advocate here.
Okay.
Um it's the point here is that when you do have a mentor, they take you slowly through the process. I understand that you're talking about the whole process and how where you're going to get, but some of these people they can't get a mentor. They're not going to get a mentor. They don't know how to find a mentor. They can't afford a mentor. All of those kind of things that kind of go along with all of that. And and so they're just trying to figure out how they can get there
Hmm.
without having to do that.
Well,
Okay. And
Flora,
hold on.
okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
You're just like biting at ears, just like, "Oh, I gotta
I
speak."
get you. I get you.
I know. But what I'm trying to say is that they're even fearful of doing that because they're afraid they're going to get a charlatan, like you said, somebody who's going to sell them snake oil or teach them things that they've heard for many years. Because I can tell you right now that there's so many books out there, so much stuff. It's like, yeah, I've heard it all. Yeah, I've heard it all. I had a client who thought that they were, and I've had several of them like this, they were very spiritual, and then but yet they have this major conflict, this person in their life that is that's causing them to get angry and all this other stuff. And I'm like, look, if you were that spiritual and you had all this stuff down, that wouldn't bother you.
Absolutely.
And I want to say this real quick. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're good.
I'm on my high horse now.
You're great. Go ahead.
I had my very first spiritual mentor was a monk, and I was with him for 3 years. During that time frame, he said to me, and this is a funny story, so bear with. He said, one day somebody's going to make beautiful love to you, and you're going to feel the most peace you've ever felt in your life. And then one day somebody's going to F you in the butt, and you're going to feel the most peace you've ever felt in your life. Mm-hmm. Now, at the time, the only thing I could focus on when he said that was, somebody's going to do that to me? Mm-hmm. Oh, my God. Mm-hmm. And I was missing the point. Finally, after I was freaking out about the fact that somebody was going to really screw me over, I was like, he said, listen to what I'm saying to you. It's about being able to be at peace no matter how much chaos is around you. Mm-hmm. And he said, now go find chaos and be at peace. And that was my assignment. He would always give me these different assignments, and I couldn't move forward until I mastered the assignment. Mm-hmm. So I went over to my sister's house. This is where it gets funny. So I went over to my sister's house and having no idea how to do this. And I figured this is the most chaos I can find, because they were always, it was like dramatic city here. So I tell her, and she's like, well, you came to the right place, because there's chaos everywhere here. And so we're sitting outside on the patio, and her husband comes out and he starts the whole chaos, and both of us kind of like take our fingers and go like this, like that's supposed to make a difference. And we start going, peace, 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 peace. And we're doing it like simultaneously at the same time, going peace, 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 peace. And all of a sudden he gets crazier. And both of us are like, peace, 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 peace. And he looks at us and he's like, you guys are crazy, and walks off. We started laughing. But eventually what we did was we started learning how to feel that peace in the midst of the chaos. And no matter what would happen, we would be at peace. And there was another event that happened, months later, where I came over. I was sitting out on the patio by the pool, and I'm typing, and I'm trying to, write my book that took me forever to write. And they all come out and they start arguing. And in the midst of the argument, they look over at me and they see me as calm as a pickle. And they're like, how can you be so calm in the middle of all this? And I shut my computer and I said, well, this is better than Jersey Shores. I have a real life experience. And they started laughing, and they thought it was funny. But they couldn't understand how I could sit here and be at peace. It's because I applied it. Now, like I said, this is a hard space. People don't understand how to get there.
Well, first of all,
that's why we're trying to. Mm-hmm. I know I'm talking too long. Sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're good.
That's why we're saying is that you have to focus on one day at a time.
Absolutely.
You have to first start with, is it a possibility that I can acquire this knowledge and apply it to my life? And this is where a lot of these clients that are very spiritual come to me going, I know, I've heard it. I know, I've heard it. I know, I've heard it. I've read that in a book. I've watched a video on that. I followed all these different spiritual masters. And I go, well, if that's true, then why haven't you applied it?
Well, first of all,
they have to believe in the possibility.
This is not an intellectual experience.
Right.
It is an emotional experience.
Right.
The best way I can be able to kind of explain this, it might be a negative example, what I'm going to say, but this is to make it real.
Okay, make it real.
There's a difference in reading a book about war and sitting down with somebody who's a Purple Heart. Mm-hmm. Because if you sit down with somebody, now somebody could be able to talk about war, whatever, but if you sit down with a Purple Heart who's actually experienced war, the very vibration around him or her is going to be different. Because first of all, they're not going to be doing a whole lot of talking, because that is a deeply profound experience.
Mhm.
Okay, so what people got to understand about this is that it's not the intellectual. You can read books all you want to. There's many people who got a library of magical books and grimoires that you wouldn't believe, but never practice a day of magic. So as we're saying, every day that you practice, you get better and better at it because it is an experience that happens with inside of you. It's an
Right.
experience. Now, watch this. This is why people didn't get Jesus' message either. Because ultimately, what he was saying is, it's not around you; it's within you. And basically, what he was talking about as a guru is, if you sit down, you meditate, and you do the different things to work upon yourself, you will actually feel and see the Christ within your own consciousness. And but the people missed it. And basically, the people who say, "Well, I'm spiritual. I heard that before. I heard that. I heard that. I heard that." First of all, they're not into mastery, self mastery. Because if you understand about self mastery, uh, Bruce Lee said he's not afraid of the guy who knows 10,000 kicks. He's afraid of the guy who mastered one kick 10,000 times.
Right.
So you could be going out there and I know this, I know this, I know that, and don't know jack. Because
You don't know it until you apply it.
absolutely,
You-
and
right.
we're on the same page with that. And if you don't, most magicians who really know the truth, it's not gonna talk for so much. Matter of fact, for years, like most people, it's kind of funny that most of the people who are close to me don't even know what I do. Because
Mhm.
ultimately, because I take the responsibility of this every day, that I don't be out there like, oh, you know who I am, I'm do this and I'll do that. Because if you assume the true responsibility of that and the weight of that, you don't have to tell people what you do.
Right.
Because it's a part of that experience of who you are. That's why we say magic is not something that you do. Magic is something that you are. So
Right.
everything that you create in your universe is an element of you. You are the tree, and the fruit comes from you.
Mhm.
So ultimately, that's why I said that if you can get a person to move into that existence and do that, using examples of nature. If you
Mhm.
have a rotten tree, you're gonna get rotten apples. So yeah, you was the tree, you was manifesting fundamentally, but that's why you manifest rotten apples because you fundamentally is rotten.
Well,
Right?
I mean, it works in a lot of different levels. If you walk around and you see all these people going, Jesus, 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 I've been
Absolutely.
saved, I've been saved, I've been saved. And you look at their life and it's falling apart. Like all it is a bunch of talk.
You
Okay.
know, yeah. They're not,
And
okay, I'm
and then
sorry.
you see no, you see people who are like magic, 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 but they're poor and they're suffering and they have all this stuff. Well, obviously, mm, I don't know what you're doing, but it's not working. And and this is where you have to change your state. And this is why we say one day at a time here, is that just try to be better than yesterday. If you can try to start with, I'm going to break this down again because I want people to understand the steps. You start with the very first day saying to yourself, there is a possibility that I can open that gate to prosperity, that I can manifest these things in my life, that I can be at peace and grow spiritually and make that connection with the divine. If you can say that that possibility is there, then you can take the next step. The next step is to just do one thing. You know that there's 50 zillion things you need to do, okay? But you just do one thing better than you did yesterday, and you just continue to do that until you become profoundly masterful at that one thing. Then you start with the next thing. And I think one of the best stories that I heard from one of our mentors,
Mm-hmm.
and this is
Mm-hmm.
one of my favorite stories. There was a guy who had gotten an MRI. He's an adept now, and he had gotten an MRI, and they told him that there was these issues with understanding, almost like being on the spectrum a little bit.
Okay.
There was
Okay.
these issues that they noticed in his brain, and so there was hard time with understanding and comprehension and some other things. But he decided that he was going to join the order and he was going to work on this stuff. But what he did was he took one ritual, and he did that one ritual every day for 30 days. And he did it until he mastered that particular thing, had it memorized, felt like he was completely one with that ritual. And the ritual could be something as simple as drawing down the energy and feeling it, you know, or you know, do some banishing or something, whatever it is, focusing on a specific planetary energy and feeling that energy, whatever it was, he would do it for a full 30 days. And he did that through all the different grade levels. Eventually, when he got through all four, aside from neophyte, but he got through all four, grade levels, the air, the water, the fire, and the earth, all of that. When he got through all grade levels, he went and had another MRI, completely cleared up. And he did that by just focusing on one thing at a time and mastering that. So when you're looking at forgetting magic for a second, just thinking about mastering self and getting into this, that gateway to prosperity, don't we need to, we know we have to master ourselves. So you've got to sit down and you've got to say to yourself, what areas do I need to master? And then try just a little bit every day, a
Well,
little bit, and then a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and a little bit more. Just get better every day. So if it's all it is saying a mantra every day. Okay, I can do a mantra every day. Okay, and then the next day you say, okay, I have to be better than yesterday, so I can do a mantra and try to feel it. Okay. So then the next day you say, I can do a mantra and try to feel it. And then you say, I'm going to draw that energy into me. It's like, what can you do just a little better every single day? And you see what I'm saying?
well, this is what I want to say about this too.
Okay, go ahead.
You get discouraged because
I've been talking a
no, no,
little.
no, no, no. This is what people do. No, no. This is what people do, and I want to use this analogy again metaphorically. Okay.
Okay.
Even the first thing I want to go back to and say is, first of all, if you're going to be doing this for your lifetime, you can't be excited and try to do everything all at one time like that because you're going to burn out. That's the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
But now also I want to see, this is what people fail, and this is what it is what it makes sense. But I did this little bit today. I did this a little bit the next day, and I still don't see any changes in my life. And I like to make the analogy like this: if you're wearing a dress and the dress is wrinkled, and you iron one corner of the dress, it doesn't mean that the whole dress is straight. It just means that you just straighten out one part of the dress. So if you've been doing this wrong for so many years, and you just take 2 days and do it, you just iron out one part of the dress. So you still is a process that you go through. Now, once you understand this, it's not going to take as quickly as you got into it, but it is going to take some time for you to be able to build some foundation. And sometimes the way I like to say it is kind of like this, like the snow globe. And you go and you put everything together like that. Let's say there's a couple of pieces that are supposed to be on the snow globe that are glued down to the snow globe, but they should have been, but it wasn't. Okay. So what happens is, so every time you shake it, let's say maybe one of the pieces was glued down, but the other wasn't. So that piece stays. Or the other one goes all over the place. So you glue down another part of it in the snow globe, then two pieces stay. So you keep on continue to do that eventually, and I like to use like the three little pigs. Eventually, when they built the house out of the brick, they huffed, they puffed, they couldn't blow the house down. Because ultimately, what you do in terms of doing scribe upon your soul, that stays forever. And it's not just in this lifetime, but for lifetimes to come. So to overstand it, it's not just about doing things in order to make your life better here, but it's also in your solar evolution so that you'll make life good no matter where you go in the next life or whatever like that. Because, when you're waking up again, and I know this is kind of going ahead of everything, but when you're waking up again, you'll find out that on the snow globe, you may have three pieces intact, but before you only had two. So now you're on a better footing, if you will, so that now you can be able to build even faster, even build even further. So a lot of times what people don't understand is that, that in America, we're taught instant gratification. You got to have it your way. And and I want to say this too. The universe has been around for 1 billion years. We're going to be around for a couple, just maybe whatever, how long we're going to be around. So the universe has been doing this a whole lot longer than we have. So we have to trust the process of the universe. And no matter how much we want to be able to do things quickly, we want to do things in a certain way. Ultimately, what happens is that we really have to trust the process of the universe, because the universe is what created us. So that's why even it's very, very fundamental that we really, really experience, not intellectually understand what it means as above, so below, so within, so without. Because you really, really understand that fundamentally. You realize that nothing can happen without you unless it happens with inside of you.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And that's the thing right there, is to understand it. It's like but a lot of people hear the words,
Mm-hmm.
they don't get it. And you can, it's like in one ear and out the other kind of thing.
You hear the word, but you don't do the word. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, what I want to say is it's not only in the Christian realm that happens, it's in the magical realm, because you got so many people out there who intellectually understand things they have never practiced.
Right.
So then and these are the people, a lot of them who are out there because people get blinded by lights. Oh my God, I got so many followers and all that kind of. But you also got to realize that if you put half truths out there, there are certain things that you are responsible for that you're putting out there in the universe. So ultimately, you're creating chaos as opposed to creating order. And that happens because those people do not understand fundamentally what magic is. Magic is not something that you do just so you can be able to get good things and to find things in life. There's a fundamental reason why we do magic. And ultimately, it is to better ourselves and our solar evolution so that.
Well, yeah, you know what? I hear you. And you know what? I think that maybe that's what we need to do, is really kind of break that down. Like, what exactly is magic? And
Absolutely.
and it's not tricks out of a hat.
Nope.
It's not banging on a drum.
Nope.
It's not lighting candles. It's not using crystals. It's not boiling chickens and, chopping, getting skeletons out of a graveyard and all this kind of stuff. What it is intention and focus. Because, like, wherever your thoughts are and
Mm-hmm.
intention is, this
Mm-hmm.
is this is what shows up in your life. So if you're
Absolutely.
constantly negative, and you're angry at your husband, and you're
Mm-hmm.
upset about this and you're upset about that, then that's what's going to transform in your life.
And that's kind of hard to do. I'm gonna tell you this because
It's
we
definitely hard to do, but you have to. I always tell people, like, do an experiment and see what happens.
well,
You
this is what I mean by that. Once you know the true truth
know.
and
Hmm.
you've experienced the true truth,
Yeah, that's the
now,
thing right there. That's
this
it right
now,
there.
now
Experience.
this is where I get hung up on it,
Uh huh.
because now you see your loved ones that you love, and they are making what you would call mistakes. But then we have to understand it the same way that you had to work out your alchemy, they had to work out theirs too.
Mm.
So now,
That's hard.
but because you're emotional and you're like, listen, I want you to go right because I know this is the right way to go. And they're like, well, it seems to me I should go left. Now, that is the part that I struggle with consistently, in the sense that, listen, I love you. I've done this. I've been doing this for years. Follow this path. And they'll be, well, no, I don't think that. It's not that part there. Now, if there's a part where I do get emotional, that's kind of the part where I get emotional more so than anything, because, when even with clients, not saying I don't love my clients, I love them dearly, but I don't go home to my clients. You know what I'm saying? So the people that are around you, that you create in your universe, it's kind of hard to say nothing and be the example and hope that they pick up, because your whole thing is, listen, I don't want you to go down this path. And then what they'll do it their way. They'll get the consequences of the way they do it. Then the first thing they do to come out of you and say, can you help me? Can you save me? Can you pray for me? I'm like, yeah, but can we get this right this time so you not have to deal with that again? Oh, and then ultimately it's like this. No, I don't want to hear that. I want to do it my way. And that's ultimately the reason why, going back to what we were saying, that you need a mentor, someone who has experienced the path, not someone, because people read books like that. They don't have the alchemy. They have not gone through the alchemy to be able to help someone else. So what they're just doing is, they might be 3 steps ahead of you, read a book, be able to tell you something to do with the book. And a lot of those people are content. That's why they don't have people who they mentor. because they realize they don't know the truth. Everything they got is from books. If somebody asks them a question from spirit realm, they can't answer it because they've never been there.
Mhm.
And that's, you see, and that's the power and
Well,
understanding.
and that's it right there because they haven't experienced that.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I have a few things to say about that as
Okay.
far as being able to gain that experience.
Hmm.
So I got two things I want to say about that. So there was a point in my life where there was people in my life that created so much havoc that it was
Hmm.
difficult for me to stay positive. And I was constantly like, but this person is always doing this to me. And it's like, and I was walking that spiritual path at the time. And finally it was, Patrick, the monk, he was like, then change it, then change it, then change it, change that story, change it. And I was just like, how do I do this? It's so frustrating. But, and so, I mean, it was I was living with my mom and her husband at the time. And I had just finished school. I was, fixing to start my practice. And he was constantly like picking on me. You left this out. You did this, da 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 da, and blaming me for things I didn't do and everything like that. So I finally said, you know what? I'm going to use this technique and see what happens. So I did. So what I did was every time he'd say something, he shaved his head. So I walk over to him, and he was shorter than me, and I walk over to him and I'd rub his head,
I thought
and
you
I,
were going to say go smack them, but that's good.
yeah, and I'd be like, you just need to leave me alone and stop bugging me, and
Hmm.
I would like tease him. And I'd
Right.
rub his head, and then he'd start laughing, and then he'd take a towel and pop it, and then he'd say, Carol, your daughter's messing with me. And then I'd say, well, then leave me alone and start accusing me of things. And I'd do it in a laughing way. And my mom would go, you two settle down, children. And he would start laughing. Next thing I know, he was talking and he was telling me funny stories, and he never bothers me anymore. And I just kept on doing that every single time, like making it a joke and laughing about it and turning it into something funny. And now when I think about him, I think of him as a humorous person. I see that you know, he's very, and I'm just like, whatever, whatever. I'm not even going to deal with your stuff right now. And I just kind of laugh and push him off and joke about it and make a funny joke about that. I tried it with my husband. My husband had a similar personality. It was always the blame game. If something wasn't working, it was because Michelle left it out, did it wrong, something like that. So I started doing the same thing to him. I'd be like, you know what? I think you enjoy this, but, and I would just like go, oh my God, do you like seriously? Well, I'm not falling for it. And I'm just like, I know you too well. And I'd make a joke about it and he'd start laughing. And that was the end of it. And I went from having this person that was constantly like, you left the lights on, you did this, like you forgot to do this, to somebody who never complains about anything. And if he does, I just kind of roll my eyes and go, okay, whatever. Did you fix it? Okay, bye. It's like not a problem anymore. And I don't have that negativity because I changed the way I viewed it.
Well, and that's the first step
Hmm.
when you know it's working. You
Well,
know
and
that
that's the whole point right there.
absolutely
The
because you
point is that you have to do something different because
absolutely,
the problem was you cannot solve a problem in the same mindset that it was created.
absolutely, absolutely.
And so like you have to change that. So I turned it into a funny thing. I decided I'm going to make this humorous, and it worked. So you can figure this out, but if you stay in that agitated, yeah, it's not working, Michelle, I'm still, oh well, then you're not in the right mindset. You've got to figure out something that works for you. There was times where when sometimes I tried different things. I would walk over and kiss him on the forehead and say, thank you for turning out the light for me. Like when he would go, you forgot to turn the light off, and I walk over and kiss him on the forehead. I mean, how do you respond to something when somebody's being kind to you? There's all these different ways that you can approach a situation, but you've got to approach it differently, and you have to test it out, and you have to test it out consistently. The only way that you're going to know is by applying the method.
Well, one of the things that is very profound, and this is a magical principle of creation. We understand this, that first of all, the present is what dictates the future.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened in the past, God can't change it. It doesn't have anything to do with it. So now, and this is if you and for the person that we're talking about who's trying to get this help, this is what you can do very simply. Let's say, for instance, in the present tense, someone has given you bad news. What you can be able to do in the present tense is visualize it and hear it as positive, so that in the future it will be positive. Because
Mm-hmm.
this is what happened. If you view it in the present as negative, then in the future it's going to be negative.
Mm-hmm.
A lot, you see, that's why I said that a lot of people, if you understand the principles of the universe and believe the principles of the universe, they work. Now, all the magical tools that we use, all the things that we're telling people about, these are just pointers. These are just tools to help you to get
Mm-hmm.
there. But ultimately, if you understand the principles of the universe and you have the support to consistently believe in the principles of the universe, they work. You know,
Okay, but hold on, hold on. But see, you're a master at this. Okay, so I'm gonna again play devil's advocate.
okay.
Okay. I mean, because honestly, I get these people as my clients.
I
Okay.
believe you.
And I can tell you from personal experience and from listening to my clients that I have to baby step them through this. Okay.
Absolutely.
Because you're sitting here saying visualize. And I'm like, most people can't do that.
Hmm.
As soon
Hmm.
as they close their eyes, their mind is wandering about everything that's happened to them in the past, and then when they try to focus on something, it goes right back to the thing about the past. It's literally programming, right? And so they have to take this baby steps. So it's
Well,
like,
even I'm sorry, let me cut you off. But even if we don't say visualize, imagination. For example, if that person told you bad news, imagine that they just told you good news. Now that's not visualization. That's just imagine, and then actually hear.
and I get that, but some people still can't do that.
Oh, really? Okay. All
A
right. Well,
lot
okay.
a lot of people can't do that. So some of the things that I like to do
Okay.
is print out something and have them focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
Find a video that they can focus on. You
Okay.
know, like a beach with some water. The beach moving back and forth and the sound of the waves and stuff. And if they can focus in and they can learn to focus just by watching this and learn to focus only on that beach and the sounds of the water and the trees moving and stuff like that, and you just focus in on that and you hear the soft music in the background, then they can close their eyes and see it,
Mm-hmm.
or close their eyes and imagine. It's difficult. See, here's the thing about the brain: you can't imagine something if you haven't ever seen it.
That makes sense. That
Okay,
makes sense.
most people can't. Now I can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but that's because I have a trained imagination and a
That makes sense. That makes sense.
visualization.
Uh-huh.
Okay, but most people cannot imagine something they haven't ever seen before.
Right.
I
Right.
tell you, if I say to you, there's some kind of, let's say you've never seen a papaya before, and I tell you to imagine a papaya, you can't do it.
Okay.
Do you understand that?
Hear you. Uh-huh.
Okay, so
Yes.
so if they've never seen happiness in their life, they can't imagine it. Okay, so this is where you have to like provoke some kind of memories of something. Like, what is it that happiness would mean to you? Can you imagine a birthday party where you were blowing out a cake? You have to help them create that. And
That
imagine
makes sense.
the dog and petting the
That
dog,
makes sense.
you know throwing a frisbee to a dog. What have they done? They've seen plenty of movies where people have thrown frisbees to a dog. So you start off there, and then you can do what I call, you transpose the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
So you take a memory of something they've seen, maybe not experienced, but something they've seen, maybe on TV,
Mm-hmm.
like throwing a frisbee to a dog and the dog
Uh-huh.
jumping in the air and catching it. Everybody's seen that on
Right.
TV.
Right. Right. Right.
So if you take that right there and you have them hold it and then hold on to that feeling. What feeling would you get from having that experience? And then intensify it as much as they can. And then you have them hold it for like a long period of time, repeating the same thing, saying, just watch it, feel it, embrace it, feel it more, feel it more, feel it more, feel it more. And then you get it pretty strong. And then you take the thing that they want to imagine, then you say, okay, imagine a person, for example, winning the lotto. Okay. This person, have you ever seen some sort of thing on TV where somebody's won the lotto and how they act? Yes. You ever seen somebody throw money up in the air? Yes. Okay. Now imagine that. Then you imagine looking yourself in the mirror. Then you take that picture of your face in the mirror and you put it on top of the person. Okay. It's called transposing. And then you hold on to that, and then you take that feeling of the dog jumping in the air, catching the frisbee, and you land it on top of that, and you put both of them on top of it while they're holding the image of that. So it's like you have to teach them how to do it. Most people can't do it. You see what I'm saying?
Well, a lot of it too, and they have tools for that, like visionary boards. You can even, if you can't really draw, you can actually take pictures and you can actually put them, cut them out of magazines, put them on boards to be able to help them that way. So, and as you're saying, there are small steps that you can actually be able to do to get a person to a point. Because, the key thing in all of this is to get a person hooked on success, even if it's small success. Because if you get one success, then you want the next success, then the next success. So ultimately, it's building that foundation of winning,
right?
So the person can be able to feel
but
good about
you're building the emotion. It's think about you and your preaching, right? Okay, so you're a Black preacher. You're very enthusiastic. You're very dramatic. And so like during your church services, you're getting really loud, you're getting dramatic, and people are like, and you're like, yes, say yes, and people are like, yes, 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 and
right,
something louder, raise your hands up, I want to see you do it,
right,
doing it, and you're really encouraging this emotional reaction, like, say it, do it, do it, do it, do it. Like at a Tony Robbins seminar, he's like, say yes, louder, say yes.
And that's all healing.
Right. And you get that emotion up here, really powerful, right? And you're teaching them how to bring that up. I mean, I do it with take this image of this, take this feeling, put it on top of each other. I step them through the process. Okay. You're doing the exact same thing. You're raising that intensity with them during that church service, right? And you're getting them all excited, and they're like hearts racing, their adrenaline's going, and then you tell them, believe, focus on that image and believe. There they are. They reach that high, put that on top of it. It's the same thing, just a different technique, right?
Well, a lot of times too, to be fair about that it is a healing process. What we call that in the church is call response, in a sense, because ultimately, because you're trying to bring the people up to heaven, if you will, in that way, or have heaven transcend down to them. That is a part of the healing aspect of the Black church. Now, though, it has been abused in the sense that now you just have the emotionalism and you don't have the science. You don't have the tools, the alchemy, if you will, to transcend the people. Yeah. So I had a preacher one time that, and I'm not going to say any names, but basically what he said was that he knew that he preached real well by all the elderly who he had to bring spelling sauce to bring them back. You know what I mean? So I was like, and I said that's a Rambo approach of spirituality. Of spirituality, because now and I have nothing wrong with praise dance, but give me something to praise for. So ultimately, what you have is you have the healing aspect in a certain way, but you cannot really heal unless you have the foundational principles in order to be able to heal. So now what happened is back when I was taught to preach, you actually gave 75% of the meal, and you gave 15% of the dessert. So then here come the pie, here comes the sweet potato pie and whatever. Now you're getting, if at best, you're getting 50% dessert, and maybe not even that much. I would say 70% dessert and maybe 30% of protein. So
Mm-hmm.
now the people are spiritually sick now. And I really mean that in that way, because ultimately what you're finding now is that people, they possess code words, but the alchemical principle, for example, the Bible says that you will be a new creature. You cannot be a new creature if the alchemy doesn't work on you. And
Mm-hmm.
if there's no inner work that's happening, but there's no inner work anymore that's happening within, I'm not saying not in all black churches, of course, but I'm saying in a lot of them, what's happening is they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, because now it's all this emotionalism,
Mm-hmm.
and there is some type of healing, but the healing can't stay because the people fundamentally have not been changed. So now what you have conforming, but you don't have transforming,
Mm-hmm.
which is a difference. That's why how people. Oh,
And that's why it doesn't last.
absolutely,
And that's why people are bouncing back and forth saying,
absolutely,
I can't stick to it. I
absolutely,
fell every time, and they get more and more negative. And this is
absolutely,
the importance of having a really good mentor to kind of guide you through the baby steps of this. And each one of us, we do things a little bit different, but in the end, like you said, it's basically similar in nature. And
absolutely,
I may have this technique, you have a different technique, but it's ultimately bringing you to the same thing. And
absolutely.
and that's where, what we're doing is we're taking somebody, like I like to say that I walk into a dark cave and I hold their hand and guide them into the light. And ultimately in the end they realize the light was not inside of the cave, it was actually inside them. But I have to turn that light switch on and make them realize that they have access to it slowly. And that's why the goal here is it's not a race. It's not running to the goal. It's not going to happen in a very short period of time. It's going to happen slowly. And that means that if you can just take one little thing and make it better than yesterday, and do that every day, make that your goal every single day. I make it better than yesterday. And if you can do that, think of how much change you can make in 30 days, how much change you can make in 3 months, how much change you can make in 6 months. And
Well, I'm sorry. So, and what you're saying is correct in that. It's a little changes that you do that create and that was a long lasting, because the little bit of change you make that you had to really work hard for is the ones that you appreciate, and a
mhm,
lot of that, a lot of what comes with that is discipline. A lot of times people do not have the discipline, and unfortunately, it's getting worse. Because one of the disservices that Sesame Street did for us is ABC and 1 through 3. And ultimately, what we believe is that if you don't get into ABC, then we go to something else. And basically, it kind of trained us in that way of having a short attention span. So ultimately, and when you look at the magical sciences, it was it takes something to be able to do it. To become a master, you have to work and you have to master. And the greatest masterpiece that we have is our souls.
right.
And if you really think about it, and this is our mission as magicians, we call it magicians, and we know that even when in the order that we both belong to, that the first mission that we have is healing,
Hmm.
and holistic healing. So because what we understand is that if you heal on a holistic level, everything else in your life is going to change. Now, are we saying it's going to come overnight? No, we're not saying that. But what we are saying is that if you work at it, and one of the things that we say within our material is persistence. If
Persistent.
you're
Right.
persistent, ultimately, and if you iron that dress consistently, you're gonna wake up one day and you're gonna look and say, "Hey, wait a minute, the whole dress is nice now, not just
Yeah.
a few wrinkles in the
Right.
dress."
Right.
So
Absolutely. Everything you're saying is correct. And that's it's a little bit at a time. And that's all we're
absolutely,
saying is it's not it is not a marathon here. Okay. It's a journey. And you can't expect yourself to be perfect overnight. But if you chip at it a little at a time and you
mhm.
just make it a goal to just be a little bit better than yesterday, um, and if you get to a point where you don't know how to go any further, then that's when you find a mentor. right? It's like,
Absolutely.
I don't know how to get to this point. I've gotten as far as I can go, and now I need somebody to guide me through that process from this point on. That's kind of like what happened with me, is that I reached a point where I couldn't go any further. And
Mm.
it's like I couldn't go any further on my own. I'd read all the books, I attended all the workshops, and then I needed more. So I found Patrick. I worked with Patrick for a certain period of time. I worked on applying that. Once I mastered everything that I applied, he passed away. So then I needed to find another mentor that can guide me to the next, because I had mastered things at a certain level and I couldn't go any further. I needed a different mentor. You see what I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
like
that's the way my path was. In the
exactly
beginning,
hmm
in the beginning, I practiced low magic, and low magic worked for me. What I mean by the low magic, for those who don't understand, oils, incense, powders, whatever like that, and it worked for me. But
hmm
at a certain level, it did not work for me.
hmm
Then I realized that it was not the low magic I needed, but I needed the ceremonial or the high magic, because I
hmm
understood with the high magic it changes the solar evolution and the
hmm
alchemy, so that you can be able to radiate without side of you.
hmm
So the way my path was that it had to get me interested. So how did it get me interested? Well, my low magic worked, like it worked. But then at a certain point, the low magic did not work because the high magic that I should have had was not there. So
hmm
then it made me evolve, because I had to go within myself and say, well, wait a minute, it's working at this level. Why is it not working now? So then I realized the fact that, then that's when the as above, so below came into it. Because
hmm
in terms of that experience, because I realized the fact that, well, how do you expect the low magic work if the high magic isn't? And then actually with Jesus was a high ceremonial adept. So he can actually, because he was so high in his spiritual evolution, he could use the mud, the clay, and they say spit in it, but that was herbology. He could take the mundane herbology of the low magic and heal, because the high magic moved to the low magic. And because of
Right, and that's where we trying to define what magic means.
that,
I
mm-hmm.
mean, the bottom line is the magic is to be in control of
Yeah,
things. Yeah, I mean, it's like you're able to bend the universe, basically. It's like
absolutely.
I can I can shift or move things in a certain direction, or make things happen a certain way. So for instance, manifesting, that's magic. If I think about somebody really hard and they call me, that's magic. Being able to use your brain to make things happen, that's magic. And so, like, that's a kind of magic. Ceremonial magic is where you're incorporating higher beings to help you. You're using the archangels or the divine names, or you're working with things that are much higher to kind of reinforce that energy around you. It's like plugging into something bigger. So that's kind of the way I see it.
Well,
I go,
I'm just saying, we're saying the same thing you're saying, and basically everything is based upon vibration.
exactly.
So, and the first thing that we're taught within a magical order is you learn how to vibrate yourself first.
Hmm.
Because what we teach you is that if you within yourself, if you can't vibrate the positivity, whatever, you cannot affect the vibration out there in the universe. So you have to raise your vibration so that you could be able to affect bring vibrations to and
Hmm.
bring the healing. So
Hmm.
ultimately, and even you think about it, even colors are vibrations. Because when you look at the tree of life, a lot of times you'll see that it starts from God, which is the purest, and comes all the way down to the mundane, which is Malkuth. But
Hmm.
really, all it is just different levels of vibration. So
Hmm.
when you learn that fundamentally, going back to what we were saying in terms of that person who's in darkness, whatever, if you realize that it's based upon vibration and your thoughts are vibrations as well, then you can be able to turn around. You can be able to say, okay, well, if I'm vibrating at a lower level of speed and I'm bringing these lower vibration things into my creation, then what would happen if I vibrate at a higher level, so that now I can be able to bring higher level of manifestation into my life. So basically, that is a way that to still explain it on a simpler level, between me and you, sir, we can they'll figure it out either between the both of us or between the one of us, and they put it together.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we're both saying the same thing. It's just that she might say it a little different than I do or whatever.
Mm.
But but as we elaborate, yes, this is what we're talking about.
So
This
this right here, you were talking about the tree of life.
yes,
This is what we call the tree of life. This is called the Sephira, and you've used the term Malkut. So this right here is what we call Malkut, and these are the variations of energetic expressions that our ultimate goal is right here. This is called Keter, and this is where you're really connected with God in full form. Okay, Bina and Chakma, masculine and feminine versions. So this the three together is the Trinity. So what we're doing here is we're working our way through. This is what we call the tree of life. We're making our way through these different aspects ultimately to join this aspect and be completely like join with God. Ultimately completely. So that I wanted to kind of show that because you've used this term a lot, and I wanted to make sure that people understood that.
thank
But
you. So
yeah, no problem. This has been a really interesting and great conversation. I know both of us are very enthusiastic about this subject, so we both kind of like, oh, I got to say something. I got to say something, And but just remember, the gateway to prosperity is just one step at a time. And through those steps of intention to raise your vibration, to do things just a little better every single day, one step at a time, just make today better than the last. And I promise you, you'll get where you need to go. Y'all have a wonderful day.